Okay, so I've had a lot of people contact me for some reason, as if I'm an expert about studying for the PMP. I'm not, but I have developed something to help me with the 49 processes that I think some of you might find useful. So, as you know, knowing the 49 processes is key to understanding the exam. So I'm a really visual person. So when I first started last year looking at how to study this massive amount of information, I took the 49 processes and I related them to different pictures. And this was my very first rough draft of it, just to sketch it out and get an idea. And then I took the words out of it so that I could really focus on like the imagery of it and connect that to what process I was in. So this is a scope, like a telescope, and that's a clock for time or schedule, and obviously some cost there, money, quality. Usually people are happy with good quality. Now, it used to be human resources, so it's also resources of vehicles and such, other equipment, things like that now. So that's been expanded. This is from PMBOK 5. And then communication, risk, procurement, and let's see, I don't have stakeholders. So these are just rough drafts. And then I would always do the formula as part of my dump sheet. So just playing around with it more and more, how can I try to visually remember? And I noticed that there's definitely this section is blocked out and this section is blocked out and this section. So I always remind myself that it starts with a kind of like an H symbol in the beginning. And then that helps me right away. And again, I kept making the little pictures to remind myself what goes there. Scope, schedule, cost. And this just started to help me relate these words visually. I went from that to trying to just fill it in. And then I looked at, okay, which areas. This is just me practicing the dump sheet, so it's kind of a mess. But I looked at keywords, started to look at keywords, and outlined which areas had more items, so I could try to remember. Okay, the rest of them only have a single item here. Again, you'll see sort of a pattern developing. So it's just visual memory. I was trying to use color and then numbers across there to help me remember how many processes, how many elements go in there each. And then I took all that away and just focused on strictly just the words, just the items within each, and then, writing them out like a checklist. And then here's another practice one. I went through and then I circled whatever I needed to add or needed to pay attention to next time. And then it's just a matter of just keep practicing. Again, I circled keywords to remember. Then from that, I decided to make a list and I strictly wrote down the first word. These are the ones that they do repeat, but I just wrote them down one time up here, and then I wrote them down exactly in the order that they appear, so even if they repeat, so you see plan, over and over, manage. So then I went back and I circled how many times the words repeated or outlined them, so that I would remember that I needed to have many of those items that started with that. And then I went ahead and I did another dump sheet, but then I also noticed that there's a couple of what I call skinny rows, and these ones, I now adjust my dump sheet for how much space I need. So I need more space to put the items in here, and I need more space here and here. But these other ones, quality, communication, and procurement, I know that they're single line or single item all the way across. So, and again, each time I do my formulas along with that. So here's one of the most recent ones that I just did, and I did pretty good. I kind of messed up on a few of the words, like estimate instead of define. But I'll show you how another strategy that I use as well to do that. But the very first thing that I do is I draw out my chart, and I make, it skinnier up here and thicker spaces along here, skinnier for quality, skinnier for communications, skinnier for procurement. So you'll notice in the book, it's also like that. You don't realize that right away, but when you look at it in the book, it's just another visual way of remembering it. And then this was the very last one that I did. Also doing things in colors, like really good way to visually remember. So again, seeing the H, and so that's pretty much how I've got to the point. Just writing it over and over again, practicing, and creating just different visual elements to help me remember. And just one more point that I want to point out that I use to remember is that in the manage and control, you monitor the things that you obviously can't fully control in life. Like, you monitor stakeholder engagement because you don't have complete control over other people, right? You monitor risk because risk is just one of those elements that in life, like, you can do your best to prepare for it, but there's so many unknowns, so you just monitor it, but you can't possibly control something that's unknown, right? And you monitor communication because, again, it's something that you don't have full control over. You can't control two people speaking to each other when you're not in the room. So when there's human elements involved, or unknown elements typically, you monitor it. So things that you can measure and control, you have a certain number of resources, you have a certain number of, you have quality standards, you have numbers with costs, you have numbers and timelines of schedule. So, all these things are very defined and controllable elements, but the more people are involved, the less control you have, so then that just becomes a monitor. So that's a way to remember that. Monitor and control is pretty much all control. So that's just one quick and easy way to remember that one. And then, of course, to go ahead and put in plan at the top of all of these: plan cost, plan quality, and that will help you remember. So I usually do that row, and I do that row. I do this one across the top, I do the one across the bottom because that's easy. And then I do really quick my one-liners, procurement, communications, quality. And then after I've done that, then that only leaves me resources, risk, cost, schedule, and scope. So it really narrows it down really fast. So anyways, I hope that was helpful and that you guys all do really great on your exam, and mine is tomorrow, so wish me luck.